All right, welcome everyone. We got Richard here, and we're just here for our weekly kind of update and discussion of kind of where we're headed with the Fire Farm and all the Solar Roof team's kind of progression. So, welcome, Richard.
Excellent. Hello, hello. So
It's
good
good
to
to,
start our week here on a Monday and see where see what's coming up this week and get caught up on a couple of the projects. And I guess the first one is the PyraFarm that you've been doing quite a bit of work on that. And by the way, did look at the Google Docs thing, and I think it's looking in good shape. It looks really fine.
yeah, no, Ian, he couldn't make it today, but yeah, we had a conversation earlier with the Kansas City Solar team. So, they're very interested, and we're getting in contact with kind of the local community as well, the sustainable group.
Mhm.
So making all the connections to get everything going. So
Good,
yeah,
good. So they've got like solar PV panel suppliers and installers and people in the community that we
yep,
can
yeah.
bring on
The
the team,
company,
basically.
exactly. Yeah, the company that we talked to today, the lady gave us contacts to their local extension, the kind of non-regulatory company that essentially does their contracting for the solar panels. And then we're going to meet with them later this week, hopefully, and discuss kind of get an engineer from their side to get us, estimates for, load and stuff like that, and kind of
Mhm.
how much we can produce with and how much space and get everything set up.
Good, good. Yeah, and I think we're going to meet with Rolf in Norway to look at the aquaculture systems. Of course, we've already started. I've been talking with him about the aluminum structure, and since we're going to source, most likely source from the Hydro Extrusion Solutions company, which is Norwegian.
Yeah, yeah. Luckily too, they have a facility, like I said, just about an hour and a half away from the build site. So yeah, even though they're a
Right.
Norwegian company, they're not very far away from our build location at all. So
That is amazing. Yeah, that is a really good thing. So, and then of course, talking with the cover materials, transparent fabric materials that we can get fabricated with Jai and his manufacturing in Mexico. So it looks like everything's coming together. We'll talk with the is it Lithuanian
yeah,
company that's going to do the growing. I guess probably mostly lettuce. I think.
yeah. Freya cultivation. Yeah.
Okay.
Currently, we're talking lettuce, but they do have systems for microgreens and
Mhm.
strawberries. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Oh, it'd be good to just do some diverse crops. As kind of a research anyway to see what we get and as far as the yield and the income potential,
yeah. I
different
talked to
crops.
Ian, and said we'd probably lean on their expertise of what they
Hmm,
think
hmm.
we should grow. Given their systems, does it make sense
Yeah.
to do mostly one? Does it make sense to start with one and then integrate two and three, or you know? So if we can get an
Right.
engineer, or if we can get a team member from their side, and then I think
Hmm,
we're in
hmm.
good shape.
Yeah, yeah. With this larger footprint, 20,000 square feet, I think we can certainly, do a bit of research while we also want to have a good, economic performance there. Kind of have some crops we're growing just really for generating the revenue. Same thing with the fish. Maybe we can actually have a more than one. But tilapia will probably be the one that we're counting on for revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking, like you said, integrating possibly tilapia and shrimp. And then I was
Hmm,
also looking
hmm.
into kind of like how we could make our own feed off of whatever we're producing for the tilapia. Like if we could make it, mostly out of algae, or grow some algae
Yeah,
and use
Yeah,
that.
it's. I think it's very viable to do that, and that is another research team group in Norway at the Life Science University, and they have been looking at live food for fish instead of the pelleted food, well, feed product that they're usually using, in
Right.
these commercial operations. So apparently, I mean, tilapia are called the goat of the aquaculture world. Like because they eat anything, and so if you put just like all our when we harvest, the crop, we always have trimmings. We always have leaves and root and some stem and depending what crops we have, right? There's maybe more of that, and
Right.
so whatever we're trimming and generating a kind of vegetable, uh, waste. Call it waste, but it's really just that apparently can be. You just dice it up, and the tilapia will be happy, to consume
Yeah. Yeah.
that
From
stuff.
what I've been
But
doing, my own.
wild, right? Normal
Yeah.
food for them.
Right. No, it's not like they have a complex diet out in nature.
No.
Fish are pretty. Yeah. I mean, they live in lakes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
there's no
but
feed pellets going in the lake, is there?
no, no,
So
most of them just eating algae or plant life.
yeah,
And
nature is abundant. You see, as they used to say, even in America when they arrived here, they said off the Grand Banks and places like that. I mean, the fish were so abundant. Uh, it's just crazy the
right.
harvests. You could get. So yeah, and that's another issue. The productivity of fish, growing fish for protein is truly amazing. It's a bit like eggs. I mean, those egg laying hens are extremely efficient. So whatever you get them as food, they approximately produce an egg per day. It's like
Right.
in out, right? And for fish, and they've looked at this a lot. There's a lot of data on this, but they're what they call the feed conversion. So you give them so much feed, and then you measure how much weight that the fish weight gain,
Right. Right.
and it's practically one for one. So like they just
Wow.
convert whatever they eat into their own body mass very, very efficiently.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and like you said,
It's-
it seems like they could live off of pretty much some spirulina that's grown and dried, and then you could just sprinkle it out
yeah,
there.
yeah, especially the small, the junior fish. They really gobble up the algae, and they get very healthy. It makes a really high quality product too, and harvesting the fish. And um, but it's possible we could, tilapia is a warm crop, warm water crop, like semi-tropical, really. Um, so I'm interested. Maybe we can also subdivide, the production area and have some area where we could grow, let's say, rainbow trout or some other variety that have a very good market. They're very
Right.
well received. But these are cold water crop of cold water fish, and they also have certain advantages. Yeah, so there's so much to do in that area. Okay. Maybe I'll get a little carried away with the research aspect. We have to also show the financial output here, so we can't get maybe down the road too. Once we're getting more well established, financially, we can dedicate more of maybe even this site that we're doing now, right? The one to expand the research and just learn more about the different varieties and how they go. How much the productivity is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the different fish and different like growing
Mhm.
shrimp as well, and
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get into it, I think, during the week here. The other progress, of course, is I've got that PDF file of 2D drawings for the PyraPod. And the what's good about that is, well, it's activating our supply chain, right? Because actually, so I'm talking with Rolf about bringing this PyraPod, which is the backyard, smaller, at least, maybe it's not for every backyard, but let's say household or small scale community based type of growing. But it still has a structure, and we can make it in metal. Of course, it's always going to be metal. Down the road, someone might research doing bamboo structures or some other kinds of materials. But let's say we're producing in steel or aluminum. Now, of course, the design was developed for steel first because it's the most common place around the world. So we want to do, for that small scale product, something that people can locally manufacture. So
Right.
now we can get this drawing to the teams, right? Like in Chicago, and say, okay, can someone manufacture it locally?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm working on that as well. So yeah, we can hopefully get that out soon and get
Right.
everybody updated on the FirePod. And hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
supposed to have a meeting with Jai here tomorrow as well. We were going to do a live
Okay.
stream, just kind of talking with
Yeah.
Jai. So
Okay. Good. And with Mark and Jordan, yeah, for Chicago. So
yeah,
yeah, that's good. Yeah, so that is now done, and it's we did it first. Well, it is actually designed for feet and inches, right? It's 17 feet square and so on.
right,
And but for Jai and sort of for the world out there, communicating with people outside of USA or London or England and so on. So we did it first in metric, but now we've got the feet and inches dimensions on it now.
right.
So
Very
that'll be
helpful.
good to share.
Yeah,
Hmm.
no, definitely. We'll get that out very soon. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm excited
Yeah.
for the progress. I think we're moving along nicely.
Yeah, and I'm looking to see if we can get another project in Norway with the PyraPod, and then get the aluminum supply involved in that one. And
Nice.
so that'll open the door as well, and that kind of leads into PyraFarm, where of course we really want to produce that in aluminum. So I think that's going to help. If Rolf can mobilize a PyraPod project himself in Norway.
Definitely.
I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah, getting that started over there, and yeah, like you said, go ahead and getting the hydro familiar with the blueprint essentially
Hmm.
for production down the line. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And
Hmm.
we could talk about kind of real quick, kind of how much the FirePod puts out, in volume and stuff. If you want to give a brief
Sure.
on that, and then
Yeah.
we can talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit.
Well, these numbers are pretty well established, I would say. I mean, you see, part of the problem is that our universities are not really, looking at, uh, they're fixated on conventional agriculture. There's not a lot of attention to the vertical farming, to the what some people call it like factory farming, or this kind of closed environment system. So so the numbers, and then of course there are the quite a few ventures in vertical farming and factory farming and so on. Problem there is that most of these ventures are quite secretive about their outputs. They're not really documenting, necessarily sharing openly, so but that's what we're going to do, is focus on open data verification, so that we can publish, and that I think will open up the realization, right, the understanding of where we're at with the food production. So let's just put it this way, when you have a seasonal garden, almost anywhere in North America, let's say just a temperate area, even or into the subtropical or hotter seasons, sometimes it's even a little bit less. But I would say that the middle America, temperate climate, summer garden
Right.
can produce, and we've seen this happen, different cities. There are some city projects like people that do community gardens. They have documented, and let's say it's 10 pounds a square foot per year. That's if you know what you're doing in a garden, you can get 10 pounds of food per square foot per year. Now, in your backyard, and you have a garden, you have all kinds of issues and problems, and maybe a shorter season, and you're not really organized about it. I'm not saying every gardener can get that 10 pounds, but I think that is a reliable number. When you go inside the greenhouse, if you add a greenhouse, even if it's just seasonal greenhouse, you can basically double that to around 20 pounds, 20 pounds of food. If you then go with vertical growing in a still seasonal greenhouse, you can hit 30 pounds per square foot. If you go with a climate control like we have, if it's truly a year round, there's where we get to 40 pounds of veg, right? 40 pounds of veg. Can you go higher than that? Higher than the 40 pounds? I do think, yes, you can go higher with CO2 enrichment. Okay, so if you got all of what I've just said, so this is now a really high tech, they would call it a high tech greenhouse. If you add CO2, especially if you add supplemental lighting,
Yeah.
you can definitely push higher than that. I know a grower in Ohio, Southern Ohio, has quite, I wouldn't call it necessarily a high tech greenhouse, but what he's doing is he's growing, what do you call them? Well, they're a little bit more than a sprout, right?
Yeah, the
Uh,
microgreens.
microgreens, yes. And he was very open, and he's a very trustworthy guy. He's been at this for decades, and very experienced. And he was very forthright, saying that he's harvesting 1 pound of these microgreens per square foot per week. Per week. So there you're hitting 50 pounds, or maybe more, but around, let's say, 50 pounds of produce, and of course, this is the wet weight. We're always talking the wet weight of um, the veg, right, that we're harvesting. And,
Right.
different crops have different wet weight too. So, salad crops tend to produce a lot, and some people might say, well, it's a lot of water there. It's true, it's a lot of water, but that's okay. It's a salad crop, very fresh, high quality.
Yeah.
You get well paid for that sort of water heavy, crop. So this is where you get the pounds per square foot, can really go somewhat, we may think, almost impossibly, a high number, right? But this is validated. This is verified. These kind of numbers are reliable numbers. How do they compare to conventional agriculture? Well, they're just way out of line with conventional agriculture. If you're thinking of extensive crops like grain, you're not even to a pound per square foot. You don't get a pound, from the field, right? Hard bushels of wheat or corn or any other, general or conventional crop, is converting at I would say, not more than 1 pound per square foot. Um, where can you get into that, even to that range? If you're growing potatoes and root crops and some crops you can, in the field, you can harvest into that range of just the volume of food. And so why does it matter, that we understand these things? Well, how much food do people eat, right? If you want to feed one person, if you know how many pounds the person's going to eat and you know your productivity, you get you get a line. You understand, right, that you're going to need a certain area. You're going to need a certain uh, area of production, whether it's in the greenhouse, out in the field, in your garden, in our kind of vertical and high tech growing. Then we get an understanding of what we need to produce. So, how much food do people eat? There's another question. On the average, right? And it's something like a pound to 2 pounds a day is typical, right? And of
Right.
course, matters your body weight, male, female, children, of course, consuming less, but then they're growing. So you might think they might be consuming less, but actually they've got quite the appetite, right? Because they're actually growing. Adults are on a, what do you call it? Maintenance, right? We just maintain weight. We don't try to grow.
Yeah.
We don't want to grow. We just want to maintain healthy, right? Maintaining healthy and just keeping our weight level when you're at your optimum, let's say at least. And so what do we need to eat? It's a fair question. And, I think that in many cases you could say adults, are eating too much probably. And here's the other thing. If it's living food, okay, now that's a distinction, right? Most of the food we're consuming is not living food.
Right.
Any
No.
process, anything processed, right, is not a living food. So the issue is that when you're eating that kind of food, you have to eat more.
Yes. Yeah, it comes down
Mm.
to the nutrient content, really. Like
Mhm.
everybody's always worried about
Yeah.
calories, and it's like,
Yep. Well, the way I think to understand it, and we're doing this work with the fish, feeding them living food. So what do we mean is we take a living plant and dice it up into little bits and throw it in the water, just like you throw in that feed, right? The pelletized little feed. You throw that in the water, the fish come up and grab it, right? So anyway, you dice up living plants. So it was just, picked
right.
and put it in the, not a blender, right? The dicer. Make it all, chop up, throw it in the water, and the tilapia coming up and eating that stuff. They found they could feed them with much less weight.
Right. Right.
Less
Yeah.
weight.
It makes sense because most plant weight is water, so essentially it matters kind of what is that water holding? Is it holding
Yeah.
protein, or is it just holding water?
Yeah, and green plants have a lot of protein in them. People don't really understand that, but it can be like kale and some of those. The spinach, of course, we all know the spinach mussels.
No,
It's
I have
can be
no
around
clue.
16%. It can be higher than meat for Pete's sakes,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
In
No,
some cases,
I recently found that out. That was mind blowing to me that people had
yeah,
grown,
it is mind
kale
blowing.
and lettuce with over 20% protein, per, and it's
Yeah.
like,
And
so
it's a complete protein for the greens. Okay. Now, a lot of different plant, you may not have what they call the complete protein, the amino acids, but in those greens, it's a high quality protein.
yeah, and like you said, you need much less of the quality, because I can even tell from the little stuff that I can grow from my garden. I could tell
Mhm.
that I feel fuller and I feel kind of more complete whenever I eat that versus like some stuff I get from the store that really does just kind of feel like I'm ingesting water.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even the nutrient facts on the back of most of the vegetables
Mhm.
and stuff today have barely anything in them. So you literally have to
Yeah.
eat like five
Oh, yeah.
pounds of lettuce or something.
And we were looking at these articles, the investigative journalists looking at our food and the food system, and sometimes you can't get the facts of what's happening in the food system and why we're suffering with sort of lack of nutrition. And as we're looking at that and saying, oh well, the commercial growers that grow in the field are focused on long shelf life for the crops they're harvesting. And what that really means is they've genetically engineered sometimes, and at least developed these hybrids of types of fruit that actually is, you could say, defective in that it never ripens. It just doesn't ripen. And they found the fruit that does this. Now, to me, that's not an advantage, right? I mean, I don't know if I'd want a fruit that doesn't properly mature, right? So
Right.
you're basically eating an immature or not fully formed fruit. Now, what would be the difference? The fully formed fruit is just, it's for reproduction, right? It's got everything in it that
Right.
needs to reproduce. The other fruit won't reproduce. So you're eating a kind of food that's not fully going to support your own, life, your
Right.
own vitality, right? So we have fruits, we have many kinds of food products in a way. They might look like fruit, but they've been engineered, they've been hybridized, and they're really more of a food product that might look nice, you know,
Yeah.
but it's not vital. It doesn't have the vital energy, the enzymes, the vitamins, and in itself can't even reproduce, right? So we have seedless, fruits. We have, so in other words, we've been playing around with nature and devitalizing that, and then on top of that, with all the processed foods, which really are just carbs. When it's processed, I mean, it's just sugar in another form, right? It's a carbohydrate. If you look at the Atkins diet and they say, well, if you're eating these carbs, just count that as sugar,
Yeah.
because that's what it is.
That's exactly what a carb is, right? It's a short-term fuel. It's made to be used in the next few hours,
Yeah.
at that, right? Like if you
Mhm.
eat this much carbs, you should be expecting to do a workout or something, or else it should
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
mostly, honestly, protein, because protein, when you consume it, the body using protein takes about as much energy to use the protein as it does. So you don't gain as much weight eating protein. That's why everybody's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm losing weight because I'm just eating chicken. It's like, well, it's because the body doesn't really store it as fat. Like it,
Yeah, sugar comes into our body. We can absorb it right through the gut, and it doesn't take any processing. So regular food, like whole food, like a real, let's say a potato, not processed potato, not something coming out frozen, but
right,
a proper, real whole food. And you will cook it, of course. I'm not saying you eat everything raw, but I'm saying when you take that in, it doesn't go right in your bloodstream. No, no. What gets in the gut, it takes bacteria in the gut to break that complex food, into um, components that the bloodstream will absorb. And those, and I'm not a physiologist, biologist. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of that. We have to have a general understanding of these things, though, that
oh yeah,
some things are dissolvable sort of, and get right into our blood, sugars, and they give us the high, and they give us all that. But the other things that our body's working on, using it to create real nutritive value that also can be absorbed, transported to our cells, and then that is the kind of nutrition that the cell is actually looking for. And if it doesn't get it, so like we cannot in our body create some enzymes, some vitamins, and so on. We get that in our food. Well, that's a complex molecule. Some of these molecules, there are thousands of individual atoms, right, in that long, big, huge molecule. And it is complex. And that's what our cells are looking for. So these vitamins, these enzymes, these coem enzymes, or all these, and of course all these proteins and components that are not corrupted, that are in our food. And when I say not corrupted, when we do cook, sometimes we can
Yeah.
corrupt the actual
Any
foods. To be
once you
careful.
once you go to a certain amount of heat, on any type of substance, it degrades. So
Yeah,
yeah, the
it
more times
degrades.
you heat something, you're going
Yeah,
to lose some of those
exactly.
beneficial aspects of the
Yeah.
whatever it is.
And to some degree, that can be good because you're breaking it down so then your stomach can absorb better, right? I mean, when we look at biodigesters, they use bacteria also, right? So we have bacteria in our gut that work on our food that we've ingested, and they break it down, and we don't understand all of that. Look, the science is still learning so much there. Industrially, they put some food waste and organic waste into a biodigester, and the bacteria are going to go to work on that material, right? They're going to break it down and they make it into colloids. We use those effluent as nutrient for the plants, right? We feed that bacterial nutrient to the plants. We have bacteria in our stomach. So what are we absorbing? I know it's hard, sometimes don't want to sort of think about it that way, but trillions of like we're a whole ecosystem in our own body.
There's more bacteria than the gut than there are stars on the solar system.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
imagine there's a reason that food has a shelf life, right? It's like you said, those complex
Mm.
enzymes that make up protein. People hear protein, they're like, oh, protein's all the same. Well, it's not. You got that crude protein, what they call it, which is just basically probably a very crude form of protein, at its purest form. But then you've got protein with living enzymes which break down over
Mhm.
time, and that
Mhm.
the reason they probably break down is because they're living, and that's why
That's
good
it.
food has a shelf life.
Yeah.
So
So the value in the food decreases very quickly. And anyway, to get back to this, why is the pounds of food and how much food do we eat? And maybe some people eat more because they feel like they don't have enough nutrition, so the body's saying, I need more, I need more. And all you do is you eat more food that doesn't have that nutrient content in it. So the body is like struggling, right? So this is where when we have our pyropod in the backyard, and we're growing 10 pounds per square foot. No, I'm sorry, like 30 or 40 pounds, right, per
right.
square foot. Yeah, much better than just a garden, but more productive year round. It's like we're taking all 12 months, right? All the days of the year we're harvesting, no seasons. Well, anyway, we get that food, and whatever those pounds of that food is, we'll feel more satisfied because we're harvesting it fresh, we're eating it quickly. We pick it and eat it probably the same day. I don't see why not. You don't need your refrigerator if you can go out and just get your lettuce and eat it, right? So you don't have to put it in the refrigerator. It'll just begin to spoil, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's my kind of rule with the little garden I have is when I pick it, I wash it, then I eat it. Like
yeah,
no point in
because
putting it in the fridge.
it's like a bonus, right? I mean, when you go to the supermarket, you don't know how long it's been on the shelf, so maybe you don't have the same sort of like, you just got it, you eat it tomorrow, the next day, or whatever. But when you go out in your own, your own living grocery store, it's right in your backyard, and you just go out there and you say, I need this for my lunch, I need this for my supper, I'm gonna, you know, that, and you'll get used to that in time. So then the question is, yeah, how much food do you need? Well, let's say it's a little over a pound a day. Let's say it's somewhere around 400 pounds or something like that. So 400 pounds, we say we're going to grow 40 pounds. So that means you need 10 square feet.
Right.
10, 10 square feet? That's not, it's a meter.
And at
The
the
square, that's like a
and
square yard.
yeah,
Okay, So is that really possible? Can we actually do that? Well, the numbers don't lie. You see, and this is our problem. We do not have faith in this because we do not ordinarily experience the abundance of nature. We
Yeah.
don't sort of experience this day by day. Um, when you got one of these, and I've had, in my backyard, I've had, my tech in the past, not right now, but I was doing that, going out getting my lunch, always a lunch, always a beautiful, salad sort of thing, and then veg. Of course, I wasn't doing any fish or anything like that, so I haven't experienced that kind of thing. But it is really it's satisfying. It truly it's a and you're not out in the hot, you're not out, it's raining, you're not, if it's super hot and sunny, going out in the garden, you're like
Right.
sweating and whatever, the cold. Of course, in Canada, 6 months a year, it's not really not even possible. So this makes a huge difference. This is why you can grow so much,
Right.
because literally every day the sun is coming in. It's nice. The environment is nice for these plants, and they grow. The lettuce you can grow in the summer every 15 days, and you get into the winter. Maybe it's every 35 days or 30 days. You pick a lettuce out, or you can even trim and let them regrow. There's all kind of different methods, and people will gradually sort of learn these things, and get sort of closer to nature and understand food. So then, how much do we need? 400 pounds. Is 10 square feet, it seems like a very small area. So then be generous to yourself, right? Get a larger, if I'm not thinking like we have 16 square meters, about 160 square feet on the ground level of the PyraPod. Can we therefore feed 16 people, it's
Right.
like, or was that
Right.
the right number? 100. Anyway,
Yeah, pretty close.
or four people per ground level, I think it would be. Um, yeah, whatever that number is, it seems way like, okay, but don't worry about that. You're going to have food for your family. If you got four people in your family, you're spending $15,000 on food. That's our average expenditure in Canada. I'm sure it's about the same and maybe higher in some places in the USA, right? California.
Definitely higher here in California.
Even though you grow you're the bread basket or the fresh food basket, right? For the whole country, even you ship up here to Canada. But I'll bet you in your own shops, it's still very expensive, right? To get.
Most of it isn't from around here, or
Yeah, they
doesn't
ship
make.
it out, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is growing, want to make money, and is shipping it out across the country to make the bucks, right?
Yeah.
So you have the opportunity to grow your own, and have a zero cost, zero climate footprint. If people are worried about their carbon footprint, and they wonder what can you do, get electric car, do this, do that, just get a PyraPod and grow your own food, because food is about 30% of the global carbon footprint. And nobody has a solution for that, because all of our agriculture, all of it, even the organic ones, all rely on tractors and mechanization and irrigate, the fertilizers and all of those kind of inputs go, and we don't have any of those kind of inputs to grow our food, right? So yeah, so carbon footprint. We're going to assess that too, right? We're going to get the data. We're going to do some, hopefully, get some universities even interested as well, and see what our carbon credits could be worth.
Oh yeah.
That's
No, the carbon credits are going to be, easily. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I've looked into some of the programs, and they have like $10 per, X amount of carbon or electricity saved and stuff. So
Mhm.
just
Yep.
off the top numbers, it'll be a pretty
Mhm.
nice additional income for us.
Yeah.
You know?
And again, the documentation, so what we're also saying is that the food system is incumbent, in trouble. We all know it. And it could even collapse. And this is not to me, that's like a lot worse than the grid goes down, you get a brownout or something. If the food system goes down, um, and I mean really down, in other words, grocery store is empty. You go in and there's just empty shelves. I mean, that is a crisis. Okay, people will get really upset really fast. Um, so this is about just a way to be prepared for the future, right? Because we know this is what the future holds. The future holds this problem of the collapse of our food system. It is so dependent on
Yeah.
oil and gas and petrochemical inputs, right? So if we're worried about our power, that we have to get, alternative sources of energy. Well, where is the food going to come from?
Yeah, and there's so much kind of misinformation right now out there, especially in regards to, you know, general eating. I mean, people, like you said, what we kind of said, they only have a base value of what they consider nutritional. They only know like maybe a
Mhm.
protein, so they'll look at the back of something and, they
Yeah.
don't really understand the complex kind of things that are going on. And then you have these people, which are usually very kind of well off people, it seems to be, that are pushing this carnivore diet, and it's like these people are just living off of essentially steak and eggs. And it's like when you look at the cost of a steak when it comes out, like you said, through these inadequate
Oh,
processes of
yeah.
feed and water misusage,
Mhm, mhm.
you're feeding an animal that eats, more food than you eat in a
Yeah.
year. And
Oh,
then,
yeah, yeah, it's so inefficient, yeah, the conversion, as we were talking about, the fish are so efficient now. Eggs are pretty good too if you wanna keep your own chickens, it's kind of pretty good system
yeah,
going there.
yeah,
But beef is, wow, beef is really a problem for sure. And, and most of the other larger animals, so smaller is better, if you're gonna go for animals, go small, they're efficient.
yeah,
And, when we get the big herbivores that I guess, that comes from ancient times, right? I mean, we used to hunt the deer and so on, a wonderful, food, right, to eat. But now domesticated, that's a whole different story. That's ugly. That
yeah.
is not,
People won't even
ranching.
Yeah, people won't even make it through a documentary on the process. A lot
Yeah,
of people
right.
they'll be like, "No, I don't want to watch it," and it's like, well,
Oh,
like,
and like you say, some ranching, some yes are free range and all of that. You can look at that, say, oh, I like to do that. But boy, oh boy, that is for the elite. Yeah, that will not feed our population. Okay, that is really just for people who have got a lot of money to throw away, really. So they're not, you
but
know,
they're essentially allowed to kind of breed that information because of the inefficiency of our current food system. Because people who think they're being healthy, right? They're like, okay, I've done this research on vegetables. I should be able to get X amount of this, that, and the third. I should be
Mhm.
solid on this. But then they
Yeah,
go to the store and they eat this, deficient and, subjectively probably, questionably pesticided, and who
yeah,
knows kind
yeah.
of that
Yeah,
process.
all kind of contamination, yeah, in the food as well. So yeah, there in our health, there's two aspects. There's the deficiencies. These can be studied too, you can actually get tests of what you are missing and all that. But then there's also the toxicities. And because of the toxicities, the deficiencies become even more extreme of a problem because some of them these that's why people get the supplements, right? Because we know that
Yeah.
some of the supplements actually will defend your body against the toxic material. So when you don't have the money for the supplements because your food is deficient, so you're going to get the supplements, and you don't have the money for that, you don't have the money for the sort of quality food that maybe some purists out there can afford to buy, and then you've got this double whammy, right, where deficiency combines with toxicity, and people just get sick so easily.
Yep. No, exactly. Especially when you're talking something like a plant, which majority of its weight is going to be kind of water, which is holding,
Hmm.
X
Hmm.
amount of things in itself. So,
Yeah.
and like you said, but I think one of the interesting things too is with the veg and stuff, you see the effects quickly, but with the meat, because I used to compete in bodybuilding and stuff, so I used to eat pretty
Yeah.
much just like meat and veg, or just fish
Mm.
and veg. And you start looking into the research, and it shows that although that since you're eating that veg directly, you see it directly in your body pretty quickly if you're getting deficient or sick or something. But in the meat that is essentially deficient before you eat it, right now you see a longer effect, right? You don't see it in a
Mm.
year or two like
Mm.
you do with the veg.
Mhm.
Instead, you're going to see it in like 5 or 10 years when you have to get like a colonoscopy or something, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
cancers and stuff that
Yeah,
come out of it.
that is true, and there is this what they call this concentration when you go up the food chain. So
Yeah,
animals, are going to concentrate the toxins, and then humans when we're eating. This is why they advise against fish these days for pregnant women, right? Because the isn't just known to be that the that food choice, right, is going to be polluted. So, and that's a general problem with pollution. Like everything's polluted. So even you think you're buying organic,
right.
and they didn't use any toxins as growing and all of that, but these things are in the groundwater, and they're coming from the rain, and they're coming in the air, and when they analyze the organic food, they find 30% of the same toxins that are in a chemically produced crop. So, it's very hard, to have now what you might call a clean, food,
Yeah,
resource for you. When you're growing in your own controlled environment, if if you get smoke coming in and there's something coming in the rain, you're not going to have your system interior is clean. Okay, so that is an important thing. We're not ventilating our space, and we're not running water in and out. So we're not a consumer of water as it would be normal. You're always watering your plants, right? Because that's a sort of a
yeah,
single pathway. You consume, and you it's gone. In our growing, this environment is circular, so the water goes around a cycle, and because of that, it can stay clean.
yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. It kind of it hits on all the kind of major points. So yeah,
Hmm.
I'm excited to get this
Hmm.
thing going. Because I know you've been doing this for 40 years, but
Well, everybody should be experimenting with this, right? Because who's going to do it for you? The food system's not going to do it for you. If you're have the education, you have a backyard, you have a certain knowledge, education, maybe a bit of skills. I mean, technically, there's a bit of technology here, a bit of skills, but not more than we're used to doing these days. It takes skills to operate just a simple computer these days, right? To get online and do different things. I mean, we're
yeah,
not talking high tech. Our system is really quite natural in many ways. You could say it's more like a high science and a low tech. But
yeah,
if you can handle those, and also I would say this is more enjoyable, I would say, and more interesting, and for children to learn about solar and energy and closed cycles. And this is like space age as well, right? So if they're going to
yeah,
grow up in a world where they're going to maybe go to Mars or go to the moon base, and they're going to see the same technology, I promise you that the technology we're doing in the backyard is the same what they're going to grow up with and they're going to live with in the future. So why not get them interested early, they can see their own food grow and eat and understand from a young age. It's like understanding computers and software from an early age, right? It's a good thing.
yeah. No, people are under this misconception that essentially we are ahead of nature in some way, like technologically speaking, like the brain, human civilization has advanced like beyond nature's capability, which is clearly not the case. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
understanding natural systems helps you understand kind of like the real way things work, right? Like I don't know,
Mhm,
the
mhm.
education system gives you like a very kind of specific type of way to think. You know, you need X, Y, and Z to equal this, but the universe teaches you you need X, Y, and Z, but there may be some variables in there that these math equations ignore essentially.
So infinite complexity, actually, right? So, our it's true our education system tends to want to dumb everything down and make it mechanistic, make it simple. And actually, life is complex. There's no question about that. If you begin to think, then you're kind of living a certain illusion about how you live, and maybe our lifestyle makes it, we can order food already made delivered to the door and just eat it without even hardly thinking about it. Yes, okay, in some ways that may make us unconscious of what the realities of complexity, in our
Yep.
life, in nature. And I think we all have to get closer again to nature. And again, this is a good way, right? If you got the PyraPod in the backyard, you're going to get really close to nature really quickly, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be
Yeah.
healthy, and you're going to learn so much. And it's also about energy. So there's food, there's water, there's energy. These are the three, principal things. And we're also learning then about our built environment. Human beings build. That's in our nature.
Yeah.
Um, this is an advanced environmental, built environment, right? We construct this thing. It's enclosed. It's controlled. It runs on sunlight. I'll tell you, what you can create in your backyard is light years ahead of your own home.
Right.
Even you have what you might call a smart home, or modern home. Still, what you're going to see in a PyraPod is advancing our concepts of how we create an architectural space, in which we live, right? In which we create our community, our homes, and so on. And if we can if we can improve on that, I think that's substantially the solution to all of our problems on Earth, right? Every problem that a human being or a family has is connected with shelter, their
Yeah.
shelter. So if we hit the shelter and we do it well, and then we also do well with mobility and sort out problems with mobility, and then we're doing so well with communication, right? So what,
Right.
what we need now is just to bring these other lagging spheres, that have been neglected, that are treated as if they don't count or matter. And that's going to uplift all of humanity very quickly.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like you said, it kind of comes down to the struggle of
Mm.
shelter and food. So if you can solve that problem in an easier way, then it leaves for more time for the
Mhm.
exploring and innovating things in life.
Yep. Well, I do hope people will get in touch with us, and of course, reach us at X,
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
or anywhere DM. And Stephen is in San Diego. I'm up in Montreal, but we also have a network around, basically globally, with the Solar Roof community.
Yeah.
So find us and join in. We need people.
Yeah. I think we'll be picking up some steam here, with Jai building the prototype and stuff
Mhm.
and having some video and talk on
Yeah.
that and getting some stuff going. But yeah, we're still
Mhm.
figuring out this restream thing and trying to figure out the best way to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, definitely reach out.
Mhm.
And all right, I guess we'll close it here. Thanks again, Richard, and we'll definitely be in contact.